Hey everybody, I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country on MKOCRadio.com. A return guest to the show tonight, a multi-million selling 80s icon artist. She's a Grammy nominee, Academy of Country Music Female Vocalist of the Year, and 2017 inductee into the North American Country Music Association's International Hall of Fame. Of course, I am talking about Sylvia. Pleasure to have you back on the show, Sylvia. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Scott. Great to be talking with you again.
Absolutely. We had such a wonderful time getting to get acquainted a little bit and seeing you perform. And you know, Sylvia, I got to tell you something. While we were watching you perform, I was literally thinking how great it would be to hear you do some of your old songs again in the beautiful voice that you have now and with today's arrangements. And lo and behold, you've got a new album.
I did just that. Your wish has come true.
Well, of course.
Great, yes.
Of course, I am talking about the brand new album that's to be released on June the 8th called Second Bloom, The Hits Reimagined. And you can pre-order it right now at iTunes and CD Baby. And if you download the album, you can get Like Nothing Ever Happened for free. So kind of a nice little preview there.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, I'm so excited. This really needed to happen, I think, because those songs I've been singing actually for a long time now, and they've evolved over the years. So it feels great to have them recorded and documented in today's voice with today's kind of instrumentation and sensibility musically, and so I'm eager for people to hear it.
It's a stellar album, and you know it's really interesting to me how, like you just mentioned, songs evolve over the years, and you know these songs you've performed hundreds and thousands of times on a stage, and I've always loved live recordings because the original recordings, they're what they are, but as the singer sings the songs and gets more used to it, I think it kind of morphs into something even more brilliant than what it was originally, and I think you've captured that on this new album.
Well, thanks. My voice teacher always says that everything in your life shows up in your voice. And you think about that for a moment. It's like, yeah, I mean, every relationship you've had, all of your friendships, all the things you've gone through in your life, good, bad, and indifferent, it's just like everything is in our voices. And so to bring the voice that I have now, today, to these songs that have been so good to me and that I still absolutely love. In fact, as I recorded them, it felt like I was falling in love with them all over again for a second time. It was a joy. It was a joy to do this, and I think it really brings something to the new music that I'm writing and recording, because now you kind of have a context in which you can hear the older music, the music that has been with me for all these years, and what I'm writing and recording now.
Well, another nice thing is that there's very little available in print. I know there's a RCA Greatest Hits CD and a couple of things out there, but a lot of the original albums, not only for yourself, but a lot of artists are just not in print anymore. And to be able to get these songs back out again, you're reaching a whole new audience in today's world, of course, with the internet and everything, and it really gives you a whole new fan base.
Yeah, it does. It does. It feels, and the shows that I've been doing over the last couple of years, as I've gotten back out on the road, I've noticed that a lot of the people that come to the shows bring they were children in the 80s when nobody was a big hit, and those people are coming back to the shows and bringing their kids. So
yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to see.
Oh, absolutely. Well, as we were talking before we got on the air, my daughter she's 12 now, and when she met you and heard you perform last year, she's a big fan now. She's got records, she's got CDs of Sylvia, and so there goes the tradition. It carries on,
It sure does, and boy, that's a beautiful thing. I'm so grateful.
Absolutely. As you were recording these songs, when you first did these, of course, Nobody was your first number one, and you were just kind of starting out in the business at that time. How has it changed recording now as opposed to it was back when you first recorded these songs?
Well, it has changed a lot. It has. And by the way, actually Nobody was not my first number one. Drifter was my first number one, and people often forget that, and even I forget that because Nobody was such a huge record. It just kind of overshadowed what had come before it. I had actually had a top 10 record on Tumbleweed before that, but it's the beauty of having a record like that really sometimes is just once in the lifetime of your career to have a record that large. But yeah, a lot has changed since then with technology. I mean, you think about when I moved to Nashville, the only way I would have been able to record would have been to sign with a big record label like RCA Records, because then you can get into the big studios, and I couldn't have afforded to pay the hundreds and hundreds of dollars just for studio time, let alone the hiring of the musicians and all that. So technology being so accessible to just about everybody. I mean, almost anyone can make a record today, which I think is a great thing for artistry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Did you record these new tracks? Did you record them with the band live in studio, or did the band do the tracks and then you'd add as your vocals later?
Well, John Mock and I produced this record together, and the way we have liked to make all of our independent records, pretty much except the very first one that we did together, we like to build everything around a vocal and a guitar. So he'll play acoustic guitar, I'll play it sing, and we just build the track around that. And I found that when we approach it that way, the song really is what is center stage. It's the song and the story that song is telling is really the focus, and everything else that's added to that just complements the song. I'm very song centric. I know I live in a day and age where celebrity is really the main focus, and that's how artists and people mainly make careers in music. I think it's about who sang the song rather than the song itself. And when I was growing up, it was the other way around. You might not know who sang the song, but you knew the song.
Right. Yeah.
But so I guess you could say that's maybe the old approach, but I'm very much an advocate of songs and storytelling, and I see myself as an artist, as a storyteller. So I really want the song to be center stage, and yes, I sing it and I deliver that story hopefully well. That to me, if the listeners out there are hearing that song and they can relate to it, the person that I am doesn't get in the way of their experience of the song.
Absolutely.
And that's our approach.
Absolutely. The songs, all these songs are still very relevant today. The subject matter is still relevant today. And, you have always had awesome songwriters that have surrounded you. I know Kyle Fleming and Dennis Morgan wrote the lion's share of these songs on here. And, they're timeless songs. Of course, Drifter, and I should have known Drifter was your first number one because that's my daughter's favorite song. She's going to...
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to hear about this later. I just know it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I just had to say that I don't want to take the spotlight away from Drifter and Tumbleweed, because those were really the songs that got me going. In fact, Tumbleweed was the single that was out right before Drifter, and if it had not reached the top 10, that was kind of the test. It was kind of 3 strikes and you're out as a new artist on RCA Records at the time. If the third single didn't get into the top 10, you were dropped from the label. Mm-hmm. So that was my third single, Tumbleweed, and so thank goodness it went into the top 10. And then the very next record was Drifter, which went to number 1. And I'm really glad your daughter likes that song. That is really cool.
Yeah, she loves it.
It's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, it definitely is. And Snapshot, that was a top 5 hit for you in '83, and I had read that was your second biggest selling record, right behind Nobody. That's pretty amazing.
Yes, it was. It sold over 500,000 singles, which at that time, singles weren't selling. So it's pretty amazing and very telling, because at the shows that I was doing, 200-plus concert shows a year back in those days, the little kids were coming to the shows. They loved Snapshot. They loved Nobody. And I think they really drove the singles sales that we had.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Back in those days, kids were still listening to 45s, and they would go down to the store and buy the single and play it. And,
mm-hmm.
and
yeah.
Of course, I was a little bit older at that time, but I was spinning records, and that's what we did,
uh-huh.
Stack them up on the turntable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you've got a couple other songs. I was real interested to hear this version. This was a duet originally with Michael Johnson, and it's "I Love You by Heart," and I absolutely love the way that you did this on this album.
Well, thank you. It's one of my favorite songs on the record too. The way that it turned out, it almost has a bit of a reggae feel to it. And John Mock, my friend and co-producer, he and I were listening to the original recording and trying to figure out how do we, bring it into, because it was a duet, as you said, with Michael Johnson. And of course, you entertained the idea. Well, do we want to see if somebody else would come in and sing it? And I said, no, Michael passed away last year. There's no replacing Michael Johnson. I was so honored to get to sing with him on that song, and I thought, I want to do the song, but I want to just do it myself. And so we came up with this arrangement, and it's actually in a better key for me to sing it. When you sing a duet with someone, you have to often find a middle ground, because a man's voice and a woman's voice usually can't sit in the same keys. You have to put it in different keys. So there's modulations and things in the recording. So in this case, since I'm the only singer, I really was able to put it in a key that's better suited to my voice. And then we came up with this reggae feel, and then also used the ukulele, which was kind of fun.
I like that.
In the production, it was great.
I like that. That was another question I was going to ask. Did you sing, other than that song, did you sing all these songs in their original keys?
Well, some I did and some I didn't. I as you get older, your voice changes, but my voice hasn't changed all that much, really. In fact, most people tell me that they think my voice sounds younger now than it did then. And sometimes the songs would be pitched in a way that I would, my producer at that time said, we get a lot of feedback that you sound really young, and, so they would want me to sing songs in keys that made me sound older, or, So I just really sang these songs in the keys that really sit well in my voice right now. And pretty much, a half step was all we would change it. It was very, very little. But I just wanted it to be in my, in a conversational kind of place vocally, because that's what I've learned really from all the voice coaching I've had through the years, is that I really want my singing to be very conversational. And so if I'm singing way up in the stratosphere, I can sing a lot higher than you usually hear on the records, but I want to sing in a way that feels conversational and accessible to people.
Well, sure, and it gets the emotion across. You have a very powerful voice. When you get to hear you live, it's I was amazed at the range and the purity in your voice, and I really do think your voice sounds better than it ever has. And there is that maturity level there that comes as you've been singing for many years, but your voice was just truly amazing. And with your last album, a lot of the arrangements were more of an acoustic setting, and it really brings out a person's soul and voice when you have the very minimal arrangements in the background, and it really showcases your beautiful voice.
Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate you saying that. I am such a stickler for being able to hear the words, hear the story, and often people comment at our shows. They say, "Oh, it's so great. We can actually hear the words to the songs." I think often in concert people feel that they hear more of the drums and the bass and the music, the musical instruments, more than they're able to hear the words to the songs. And I'm such a storyteller. The songs have to be front and center.
Amen to that. Yeah, a lot of really good songs got missed that way.
Probably so.
Well, of course, in addition to some of these wonderful hits we were talking about, the album is called Second Bloom, The Hits Reimagined, and you can go to sylviamusic.com and get more information about that and pre-order it right now at CD Baby or iTunes. It'll be available June 8th everywhere. Some other songs on here: Fallen in Love, Cry Just a Little Bit, Sweet Yesterday, Like Nothing Ever Happened. And another one, this was an album track, and I actually went back and listened to the original track because quite honestly I hadn't heard it for a long time, and I absolutely love the way you did this, but I think it could have been a hit. You Can't Go Back Home.
Yes, I really wanted to put that song on this record, and I found a way really to justify it, because the theme of the song, You Can't Go Back Home, is really talking about how change is inevitable in our lives, and you may try to go back home, but you really can't do that. And I felt like that was a metaphor for my approach to how I wanted to make this record. I didn't want to go back and take those hits that I had all those years ago and redo them note for note, try to copy them. I didn't want to copy what I did. I wanted to, allow what the songs have done over the years. They have evolved, and I have evolved as a singer, as an artist, as a human being. I've had a lot more life experiences, and so to sing that song and put it on this record felt very appropriate from that standpoint. And I agree with you, Scott. I wanted this song so badly to be a single back in the 80s, but alas, it didn't get chosen by the record label, and I was always sad about that. So in making this record, I thought, oh boy, I'm finally going to I'm going to give this song its due.
Well, that's one of the nice things about being able to do an album like this at this particular time is that you have more artistic freedom and creative freedom to do it the way that you want to do it. Do the arrangements you want, pick the songs you want. Back in the days of the major labels, that wasn't usually the case. They pretty much said, "Hey, you're going to do this song. This is going to be the single, and that's the way it is." And that's
well, and they, to their credit, they were investing a lot of money.
Oh, certainly.
In their artists, and so, yeah, I think just by it's kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
If you want to be in that big machine and want to get all that amazing exposure, you have to kind of make some concessions with what you're able to do creatively. So you're right. I'm glad to be at this time in my life and be able to reimagine these songs in a way that feels like it fits me and fits the songs in today's world, and with all the things that's going on in this world. It's really an honor to get to go back and do this. I think the fans out there, if you love the music in the 80s, I think you're really going to love this album, because we did our best to honor the original recordings as far as any licks or anything that felt like they were signature and part of the song and the heart and soul of that song. We wanted to bring that forward. But there's not a lot of synthesizer or technical sounding instrumentation on the record. It's just very grounded and earthy but also very exciting, I think. I mean, I fell in love with these songs all over again.
Oh yeah, the recordings are crystal clear, and like you said, you can hear your voice so well. And that was one thing in the 80s. There were so many great songs, but boy, they sure loved to use the synthesizer back then.
It was just the era for everything being big, like big hair, big shoulder pads, musical sounds. It was the time period we were in, and I love 80s music. Don't get me wrong, I love it.
Oh no.
But when you're going to stand on stage night after night and sing this music in today's world, it just feels great now to have brought this music forward so that people can relate to it now. In this day and age.
Oh, absolutely. It's a nice full circle thing. I'm always reading, I love to read the liner notes. I like to see who the musicians are. I like to see who the background singers are. And I noted one particular voice that I heard before I read the name, and it's Jim Glazier.
Yes, Jim. Oh my gosh. Do you know he sang on Drifter and Tumbleweed along with the Jordanaires on the original recordings of Drifter and Tumbleweed.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to know Jim, through the years, and actually done a couple of shows with him a couple of years ago, and he's still singing. He sings like a bird, and he's 80 years old now. You would never know it because his voice just sounds like a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
And so
amazing.
To get him to come back and sing on this record was a real honor.
I thought that was really cool. I noted that, and I saw Jim a couple years ago. In fact, he was on my show too, and he has this voice now. For a lot of folks, they know him from Tom Paul and the Glazier Brothers, but Jim Glazier also sang the harmony part on El Paso, which was Marty Robbins' song. And a lot of Marty's big records too, and he's got that soaring high voice, and it complemented this record so well, and it was so neat to hear him, and I literally picked his voice out. I knew it was him. I thought there's no way you could have duplicated that. It's got to be Jim Glazier.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You were absolutely right. He's got a very unique and beautiful voice, and he's a beautiful soul. Part of the process of picking people to play on this record is not only are they great musicians, but they're people that I just feel a kinship with and on a soul level. So, everything's energy, and when you're bringing people together to create music that's very meaningful to you, you want people that are able to come and really bring their heart and soul to the music. And so I feel great about everybody that's playing on and singing on this record. I feel honored to get to work with them.
Well, it is a stellar project. Again, it's called Second Bloom, The Hits Reimagined. Please visit sylviamusic.com for more information. We will put that on our Facebook page as well. Sylvia, do you have some tour dates coming up?
Yes, I have a few, but I think we're going to have a lot more going forward. I'm just in and around Fanfare, which I still call it Fanfare, or CMA Fest.
Yeah.
I'll be singing at Piranha's Bar and Grill on the 8th of June, that evening at 7. And I'm doing a benefit concert on the 9th. I'll be singing along with a lot of other people. It's for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and that'll be at the Nashville Nightlife Theater on the night of the 9th of June. So that's just from the top of my head. I'm not looking at my schedule right now, but if anybody wants to keep up with my tour schedule or anything about the CD, you can go to my website, which you mentioned earlier, sylviamusic.com, and my tour information is there. Videos are there that you can watch. I've made a couple of music videos in the last couple of years. I've got tons of videos of little vignettes, stories of things that have gone on in my career that I've shared on there. So you could spend a few hours actually just looking at videos on my website. But you can also buy this new record, Second Bloom, right from my website. You can just click on either the CD Baby button or the iTunes button to pre-order the record today.
All right. And again, we'll put that information on our Facebook page. And I also want to mention Sylvia's last album, and she was on the show. We did a feature on it. It's All in the Family. That's available too. And you can go to our YouTube channel and listen to that feature interview that we did with Sylvia on that album as well. Great music, Sylvia. It's so wonderful to have some new music from you again. And of course, always a pleasure to have you on My Kind of Country. We absolutely love you. And thank you so much for taking time to be on the show.
Oh, thank you, Scott. It's always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much.
All right. We are going to play some new songs for you from Second Bloom, The Hits Reimagined, right now as we continue with My Kind of Country. Sylvia, thank you again.
Thank you.